What up? This is your boy DJ EFN. You might know me as a drink champ, but first and foremost, I'm a proud father. I linked up with two of my other dad homies, Manny Digital and KGB, to start the Fatherhoods podcast. Each week, we bring you insider hip-hop stories, parenting, and advice and therapy. The saying is true, it takes a village, and we humorously serve as each other's trusted counsel in figuring out how not to screw up being a good dad.
The Fatherhoods Podcast. Beats, rhymes, and diapers.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Nice.
Yeah, man. What's up?
What's going on, man?
Going on, KGB?
Summertime action. How you feeling?
Well, I had that procedure done.
Yeah. So I don't know exactly what went down, but I know you had some stuff going on.
Yeah, I'm trying to address sleep apnea.
Okay.
And, just stuff like that, dealing with that stuff. So over the years, I've tried everything for CPAP to nose
I remember.
to taping mouths. I've tried it all.
Yeah.
None of it works. But, as time goes on, you're feeling, sluggish. You know that's dangerous. Sleep apnea could be dangerous. You get a heart attack. I just turned 50, so I'm like, I'm nervous about that. So wanting to be here for the kids, try to optimize health. I said, let me go check out this specialist that someone referred me to, and they do a procedure. Well, one of the procedures is actually pretty common. It's where they go in and expand the nasal area for the air.
Okay.
And then the other one, this doctor supposedly is one of the few people that does it in the area, which is they go into your throat and they call it palatal stiffening. Basically, what happens over time as you snore, huh? Yeah, it definitely is a pause. Over time, as you snore, more and more that suction causes your kind of like your throat walls to collapse.
Oh, damn.
Obstructs further the airwaves and makes sleep apnea that much more worse. And so apparently I was born with small nasal airways on one side already, which was what happens is at night when you don't start breathing clear through your nose, you start breathing through your mouth and snoring, and it all just whatever. So the point is I got a surgery on all that. And it's funny because you're supposed to, at least for the first few days, it's like bed rest. That's not happening in a home.
Okay. Yeah.
So on the fatherly tip, right. My son playfully and accidentally punched me right in the nose, the next day.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
And then he elbowed me 3 days in, elbowed me accidentally in the nose.
What was your reaction when he hit you in the nose?
I was just like, Pops, because I prepped them that I was, but since I didn't look physically I was hurt.
Yeah.
Or had surgery. It didn't. I mean, the first couple of days I was bleeding out of my nose and I was complaining of throat pain, but physically it didn't look like it. And the next day I jumped. I kind of tried to act like normal. It wasn't until the third day that it caught up to me that I didn't really rest. That I don't know what happened. My body just
shut down.
I was just I couldn't do anything. It was one of the times that I had COVID really bad. That's how I felt. But yeah, I'm on the road to recovery. I think I'm 3 weeks in now.
Notice any difference?
Yeah, I mean, immediately I noticed I could breathe better through my nose. Because what they do on one side, they do on the other side. They don't.
Okay.
They don't, just because one side was okay, they have to match the airwaves being the same. So they opened up both sides. And then my wife says I'm snoring 80%, 90% less.
Wow, really?
Yeah. The only thing is, and I went for the follow-up, and the doc said that I'm healing nicely, everything's looking good. But they said you're not going to necessarily stop snoring or stop having sleep apnea immediately because the internal swelling is there, and it takes about 2 months for that to really go down. But the other thing they said too is that I have to retrain myself to close my mouth. Because I've been a mouth breather all this time because of, the whole thing. So my wife says that the only thing I'm doing is I'm breathing heavy through my mouth.
Yeah.
But the snoring she said is almost gone.
Is sleep apnea, or is any of that pad like genetics passed down or anything?
I don't think so. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe. Well, genetics was I was born with my nasal cavity or whatever,
Hmm.
that passage thin. It was a small passage. So that I was born with. And I remember when I was little, and my mom was reminding me of it. My mom, she said that I had something with my nose. I would get nosebleeds when I was a kid. And there was something that the doctors wanted to do or they did, but there was something up with my nose. So that was from birth, but I don't know that sleep apnea necessarily is something you're born with. Maybe there's things that you're born with that eventually lead into sleep apnea down the road.
Got it.
But sleep apnea, you could have a heart attack, a stroke. It slows down your metabolism. Like I could work out and eat great, but if at night my body's not metabolizing or recovering, it
Yeah.
doesn't really matter. And it's like it piles on like that lack of sleep.
It's good, man.
So
It's good that you went and did that.
yeah, so I'm just, I'm waiting for my dreams are crazy right now. Like I've always dreamt, but now it feels like I guess I'm
Deeper
sleeping
sleep. Yeah.
longer. The deep sleep is longer. So I'm having like these movies that are just like feature films dreams. And my wife says I'm talking a lot in my sleep, a lot more than I ever did, which is crazy. But yeah, so yeah, all that's been happening, and I get back to Drink Champs. Like I took off of Drink Champs.
Yeah.
Next week I start back up, which I'm a little nervous because I think that smoke that I'm
Yeah.
around in Drink Champs could irritate my sinus area.
Did they record while you were
They
out?
recorded. They recorded one. They almost did another one, but they recorded one while I was out. Yeah,
Okay.
which I'm totally
Yeah.
fine with. Uh, it was Mario, the episode we just put out.
Got it.
But yeah, man. And then the kids,
Huh?
summer camp. But another thing that's messed up is now we're getting sickness in the house.
Uh,
So while I'm trying to recover, now I'm feeling like I'm getting attacked with these viruses. Both the kids have been sick and missed some camp days.
I was thinking about what to talk about when we were prepping here. I keep reading these headlines. I'm curious what your thoughts are. Just as we think about like the futures for our kids. And I keep reading all these headlines about all, the degree at which all these, I guess, quote unquote, normal jobs are going to get wiped out from
Yeah,
AI and all the predictions of, I mean, I saw a headline the other day that I forget who the person was, but it was, I guess someone highly regarded, and they're like, yeah, 80% of jobs now are going to be wiped out by like 2034 or some shit like that. Um, think about that at all?
well, I've been thinking about all this stuff lately, and it's
As
to
it
the point
pertains
where
to
it's
like what your kids are
stressing
going to
me.
do,
Just
down the line.
everything, like the state of the world when they're adults or teenagers, like what this world's gonna look like. I feel like the world's gonna drastically change in the next 5 to 10 years.
But there's like on the flip side, then you've got also a bigger push, and people are paying more attention now to like the trade school option or the things
Mm-hmm.
that AI
Yeah,
can't do, like, fix roofs and be an electrician, be plumbers, and that kind of thing.
mechanics, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
But can AI not do that? Like
right.
robotics will probably
Yeah.
do a lot of that stuff,
Yeah, at some
especially.
point. Yeah, at some point.
So yeah, I don't know, man. I'm so couple of things that I've been like thinking about. So it's like we don't want our kids to be on these devices, right? But the future is devices.
It's the device. Yeah, it
Like
is the device.
I saw a video. Uh, this kind of correlates. I was sent a video of a I think a teacher who was talking to some eighth graders and was telling them about texting, what they thought of, like, or she mentioned that she texts and that the eighth graders like, oh, texting is like whack, like who texts, like nah. And then
All
she
right.
started asking, have you seen this video?
No,
She
but
started asking the
I
kids,
think I know what
well,
you're talking about.
what's wrong with texting? And they were like, no, I'd rather talk on the phone or do FaceTime. It's quicker. You can relay emotion. You can tell better stories. Also, we don't like a digital footprint where, the parents might read what we've text. Maybe we want to keep things private between
But this
the
is
person.
kids saying this?
These are eighth graders. So the teacher was saying
Interesting.
that this was, she really loved this and that she felt that the future was bright for this generation. Think if they're thinking like this. But
Yeah.
I'm like, they can think like that all they want, but the truth of the matter is that AI is gonna really dictate where everybody has to go, and you have to go digital. And then also the idea of the digital footprint doesn't live in a video is or a voice is ridiculous now.
Yeah.
Everything is being recorded. Everything lives somewhere. Like I feel like we're living in that future. They're saying, well, remember that movie? What was it? Where they could predict the crimes. What was that movie with Tom Cruise?
I don't know.
You remember that? So basically it was like AI. It was an AI like police thing where they would predict a person doing a crime and they would like
Oh, okay.
get them right before they did the crime
Got
and
it.
arrest them. Some crazy shit, but it was like basically AI modeling that would predict it. And I just think that the future for anybody that's going to be living in at least in cities is going to be revolving around all this AI technology. So it's like, so what do? Do you keep these kids off of these devices for as long as possible? But then are they going to be behind when they get on these devices? Remember, they
Yeah.
used to say that video games were bad. Now they're saying video games for kids is a good thing. The kids
Right.
that play video games, they can handle technology better.
Right. Makes them just you got to be quick thinking and
Right.
yeah. Mm.
So I just don't, I feel conflicted as to what is the right path to prepare our children for a digital future, but also balance it like you want them to be understanding of why they need to be careful with that, with what they do on the digital side. Like, are they truly going to understand, have that same point of view that we do before this digital world? Are they going to, like, we really instill that understanding in them?
Yeah, it's hard. My son's a little older than your kids, but he's still young enough to not understand like the consequent, like the digital consequences of things, even as
Right.
simple as um, who you're chatting with and the digital footprint, and even understanding that, okay, well, there might be people you're talking to, friends that are recording things and you don't
Right.
know it, and that stuff.
Take screenshots.
Yeah, 100%. So the yeah, there's still the unknown with it.
And look, some of our worst nightmares are actually and worst conspiracies are coming to be real true. Like they've been shown that these social media companies had to like cozy up to the government are allowing the government access, and they are actually recording and 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 I don't know how they're storing all this stuff, but they're definitely keywords are actually getting you caught up.
Mm,
So like if you were to put like the president's name in something, I'm hearing that these things are going into queues or being sent to places for someone to like monitor what you're talking about.
that's crazy.
Yeah, and it's like this was stuff of conspiracy before. Like these are things that when we were younger, like the mark of the beast or how certain things,
Yeah.
like maybe we had it wrong by a certain degree, but it's all really exactly what we were told kind of would happen, and we're kind of all
Hmm.
like okay with it. Like what can we do?
Right. Yeah. Man. Have you so as far as devices and your kids go, have you given are you following like certain guidelines at this point, or are you still
Yeah.
freestyling it?
No, we have some guidelines that and we actually have been we've talked to the doctor and other stuff that we've done just to see if we're okay with what we're doing. But so the kids aren't allowed for the most part because obviously
Yeah.
sometimes there's things that
Changes.
change.
Yep.
But for the most part on school days, even now in summer, they
Hmm.
cannot use their iPads or they can't be. And the only thing that they do right now on these devices, 90% of it is watching YouTube kids,
Yeah.
And the other 10%, my daughter, she likes to play some games on the iPad. So on the weekdays, they're not really allowed. Friday after camp or after school, they're allowed. And then Saturday and Sunday, they're allowed. And then what we've been trying to like play with is the amount of time they're allowed in
Yeah.
the days that they're allowed, and that varies. What's scaring me is that like my son is actually worse than my daughter right now. When you take it away from him, he just like loses his shit.
Does he?
Yeah, yeah, he loses his shit. Now, what I will give him credit for though, my daughter, she's more on the YouTube Kids, where
Mm-hmm.
she's like, you know how they say the one thing that's bad about these kids being on these devices and watching content is that they the short attention span
Yeah.
where they just go through things and they don't even
Mm-hmm.
finish it. My
Yeah.
daughter's that. Where my son, and the credit that I give him is he's gotten into specific channels that have kind of long form videos. Like he's in some monster trucks, and he watches like some guy that does like a monster truck video game thing where he makes it into like a episodes,
Yeah.
and or he'll watch this family that plays with like these toys, and these things will be like 40 minutes long, and he'll watch the whole thing. And sometimes he's crying because he's like, I just want to finish. Like he's got like 15
Right.
minutes left. I just want to
Yeah.
finish it. So, I give him a little credit that at least he's watching long form where she's kind of like not. But those are the guidelines we've been going by. And even then I question, is that too much? How
Mm.
about you guys?
Yeah, I mean, he's at an age now where we try to let him self-regulate it. I mean, we ask him like, what do you think is too much? Is it an hour? Is it 2 hours? That kind of thing. So I don't know if we have a hard line on it yet. Obviously, it can't be like an all day affair, that kind of
Right.
thing. There's got to be other things that that he's doing. But he's pretty good at regulating. We're having a little bit more leniency summertime right now, especially because he does all A's in school and all that kind of stuff. So we we
That's
we know that he knows how to get his stuff done. So, but it's still, and I get a little hesitant with like the, the YouTube searches because he does
right.
like to look up some things on YouTube. And at first we were a hard line of like, nah, you got to tell us everything that you're looking up. And that's eased up a bit because, we have an idea of what he's looking at, but still it could just take that one thing to send him off the D. You just don't know what's going to pop up.
Yeah.
And, yeah, we could put like parental controls on and all that kind of stuff. But then that ends up being limiting too, and then I don't necessarily want to stop him in his tracks. So
How's the outside time?
outside time is good. I'd say on a normal like school day, like yeah, he's out. He's at school most of the day, and then he's got stuff after school, sports and things like that. So, and then when he comes home, he's got homework. So most of the weekdays are eaten up. I say summertime, there's probably a little bit more if he's not in a sports camp or something. Then if he's home, there's more time spent inside, and he's just kind of chilling, and there's probably more screen time happening. Although, and it's just hot as shit in the
Right.
summertime here. So, but there's still outdoor time, and then there's still breaks, and then actually the school has like some summer homework as well. So there's like summer math that has to get done. There's summer reading. We
Yeah,
want him
same
to
here.
we want him to be reading, and 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 we've made some deals with him in terms of like video game usage and stuff has to be supplemented with. So my wife bought some like some math workbooks and things like that. So there's certain things that breaks that he has to take and get these things done in order for him to hold up his part of the bargain on what we allow him to do from a like a chill tip.
But not definitely no hanging out with friends outside type of thing, like in the
Uh
neighborhood.
yeah, we're not really in that kind of neighborhood. And some of the kids that are around here are more younger. So yeah, there hasn't been a whole lot of hangout time as of right
I
now.
don't see that anymore though. Like even in my neighborhood, there's kids. th- I mean, maybe the kids are still too small for that, but
Yeah, I
I
think
don't see kids playing outside anymore.
yeah, I mean, I think now if we lived back in our previous area, there'd be more hanging out because he's got his friend group and they all like to hang out. There's more central places to hang out.
Hmm.
Where we live now, it's a little bit more, it's not remote, but it's not like people are down the block or any of that kind of stuff.
But
And
when you say central, was it you still under your supervision, or they would go on their own?
yeah, under supervision or other parents' supervision or, that kind of thing. He's not
Right.
a, yeah. I'm not sure at what age we're gonna be good with like, okay, you guys go off and do your thing. I mean, he's coming up to that age. He's
Like what age did you? I remember
oh, I remember being young, like,
super young, man. Like
yeah,
yeah, I remember my mom or somebody would be like, "Okay, stay in front of the house," but
yeah,
we'd always end up on the other side of the neighborhood.
yeah. No, I definitely, even if it wasn't with a friend, even on my own, like just venturing off
It's
young,
crazy, man.
you know. So
I don't know how danger. I mean, obviously it was dangerous.
yeah,
What different times, man. Like that starts to make me feel really old to think
yeah,
of how different it is now to then.
yeah. I mean, he's
Like were
about
our
to,
parents careless?
yeah, yeah, I
Our
can
parents,
maybe,
like what? Like obviously our parents were loving parents, but what the fuck? They would just let us go out
yeah.
into the world.
I know. Um, yeah, I don't know. He's about to be a teenager, and there's still hesitancy of like,
Do you think that's now? Do you think that's good? Like the things that we learned at young ages, being out and about, we obviously learned things the hard way,
yeah.
and we didn't come back most of the time and tell our parents everything. So do you think that those tools helped us? That surviving experience helped us in life when we got to teenage years? And now,
I'd say probably.
and do you think now, like you're like him being a teen is like different now? Or do you think all teens? Well, I would imagine all of them are a little bit more sheltered.
Yeah, I think, man, I don't know. Because I also think it depends on the person. But
Right, but the person can only go so far without
right,
experience.
right, that's true. That's true.
You could read it in a book, but if you didn't
Yeah,
live it,
yeah, it's true. Yeah, there's probably, I'd say overall, generally speaking, there's more sheltering going on now.
right? Like, are we? I mean,
Even though
obviously,
and we've got more like devices to track and locate and all that kind of
right?
stuff.
There's
Yet,
still,
yeah,
because,
still even
yeah,
more
no,
nervous about it.
for sure. It's crazy, and then you see more crazy things. But even back when we were kids, we knew about the van that would pull up, or the
Yeah,
guy, hey
yeah,
kid, you want a lollipop?
yeah,
Like,
yeah, all that.
like that stuff obviously was happening for those stories to come out,
Yeah, I'm conflicted, man. I want him to have more
right? But you don't want
independence,
that
but
one. Yeah,
that one, yeah,
it's not
yeah,
worth the it going wrong.
yeah,
Like it's just not worth it. I mean, and then if you think about even ourselves, I could tell you a million times where something almost went wrong, like to the point where I may not be here today.
yeah, yeah.
So if I were to tell my mom those stories in that time period, she would have been like, never let me out the house.
But then at what point, yeah, then it's just like, at what point do you say, okay, go ahead and do this? Like I don't know.
And even as teenagers, when they're supposed to be out more, it's gonna be nerve wracking because then you're wondering, do they have the experience to know how to navigate being out by themselves now?
Hmm.
I don't know. It's conflicting. I guess you'd have to do it in steps where like you go and it's like supervision, but from a distance.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
Yeah,
chaperoning back, like bringing back chaperoning.
yeah, pretty much. But yeah, you're just kind of drop them in an area, let them go off and do their thing, but you're still in the vicinity, even if you're not necessarily being seen or that kind of
It,
thing.
it's funny because it made me think of, I just ran into an old high school, I want to say buddy, but we
Yeah.
actually had beef. But I ran into this dude that I knew in high school, and I really hadn't seen him much over the years. And me and a couple of guys were at a bar, uh, and he comes over with his son, and
Hmm.
his son's like a teenager with a group of other teenagers, and he's like, and he comes up, he says what's up to me, and he's like, hey, my son didn't believe that I knew you. He recognized you from your show, from Drink Champs, and he was like, oh, I wanted to show him that I know you. And anyways, the reason why I'm bringing that up is because he when he went back to where he was at, I noticed he was just sitting at the bar by himself, but then his son and his friends were like at a table on the other corner of the,
Oh, okay.
the restaurant. It was a restaurant with a bar.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, I guess he's chaperoning, the kid. But the
Yeah.
kid was like an older teen already. I mean, he no younger than 16, but could have been, as old
Yeah.
as even, well, I doubt he would have been 18, but 16, 17. So yeah, he was there. And so I'm wondering, like, if also, like, how now it seems like us, our generation feels younger,
Yeah.
maybe acts a little bit younger to an extent. Maybe that kind of plays into like chaperoning doesn't feel like chaperoning anymore.
Yeah, like you're not the kids aren't necessarily embarrassed to have their parents around,
Right.
but at the same time, the parent doesn't need to hang out,
Right.
just be there on that helicopter tip while they're hanging out.
Yeah. Oh man, there's a lot of things I'm like wondering how it's gonna go down.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, we're gonna have to experiment soon with letting him go off, and I think the chaperone at a distance idea is good. We actually did that. No, now that I'm thinking it, we did do that not too long ago at a mall. Well, him and one of his friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he had his watch on. Um, but then the funny thing is, I was like, all right, fairly controlled environment. Have the tracking
The
device on,
tracker, right?
but then the shit didn't stop. It stopped working. Like he went into it. He went into a dead zone.
And you like panicked.
Yeah, both my wife and I were like, oh, what the fuck, And so she's trying to be cool, and then I just started because we were so reliant on like, oh yeah, he's got his track dog. We'll just call him when it's time to meet up. Like we didn't do the old school, like, all right, it's, you know, 2 o'clock now. We're gonna meet back here
Right.
at 3 o'clock or whatever. We didn't do that because we just were like, oh yeah, he's got his thing on. We'll call you when, it's time to get up. And so because we didn't do that and then the shit stopped working, then we're like, fuck. So um I'm like I'm like walking fast as hell through the whole mall, like trying to figure out, like think about like, okay, what stores might they have gone into? So finally I found them, and like they were kind of oblivious, like the phone wasn't even working, or the watch
Right.
wasn't even working. So, but it did give me like a scare of like, ah, damn. And I was also, kicking myself like, fuck, we really, can't just be thinking up because they got a phone or because they got a watch that like you
Oh
don't
no.
you don't have your backup plan.
Stuff might not work. No,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Backup plan is like you got to go old school on it. It was a good reminder.
Yeah, and it's funny because I also think about, I have the two kids and the different temperaments of who's gonna do certain things that are gonna really freak scare me,
Yeah.
be a little bit more independent. Like my son, I think will be more like I just feel like he'll be more responsible.
Hmm.
Right now, it seems that way at least. Where my daughter, I feel like she's more adventurous and more wants to be more independent. So she like I'm scared of those ages where because she's already exhibiting wanting certain independence.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what is it gonna be like when she's like preteen teen? Like
Yeah. It's gonna be scary.
scary, dude. And for a girl, like, I don't want to be I don't want to say because he's a boy. But yeah, I worry more about my daughter because I just feel it's more dangerous for a girl.
Yeah,
And it
there's a
could
bunch
be
of creeps out there.
yeah, dude. I don't know, man. I definitely have to start checking my thought process and my thinking because I'm thinking about too many variables
Mm,
and too many scenarios and
yeah.
like, you think about just the micro version of it, and then the
Yeah.
macro of like the world and what's going on in the world. And it's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
the war with Iran,
Oh
Gaza,
man.
the
Yeah.
economy, China trade wars, Canada hates us now,
I
like,
know.
like the other day I was watching something and it was like a show and it was like talking about, fentanyl and drugs. And I'm like, oh, I didn't even think about that stuff yet. Like, God forbid,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
kids get
Yeah.
into any of that. It was actually, it was a dad who was chasing his teenage daughter who had got hooked on fentanyl,
Oh God.
and
A nightmare.
he's telling a friend of hers, well, someone that knew her in school. He was telling her that one one day you're their everything. You're feeding them. You're teaching them how to walk, how to talk, and then the next moment they grow up and they run with the wrong crowd and you lose all control. And this happens. And that's true. That's as easy as it is. Like kids get a little older and then you see those things where it shows the phases where you're like the everything, like
Yeah.
where you're at as a parent in their life, and then when it gets to the
Yeah.
teenage and young adults, it's like it's a wrap for the parent.
Yeah. It's tough, man. They're getting bombarded from all angles. Even I mean, even just from like the music side of things.
Yeah.
My son is listening to newer music nowadays as well, and it's just
You're keeping them old school.
I was, and it's fine. I like some of it, but even just some of the messaging of, I hear him, he'll be singing a Travis Scott hook, and it's, popping pills is all we know, and I'm like, dude, do you even understand what the hell this means? And do you understand that some of the folks from this generation of music have died because of popping pills? And
Yeah.
it's like having to explain this stuff. And because yeah, you just think like these young kids that don't know any better, and if they think that's cool,
No, yeah.
just all it takes is one moment.
Just like with the social media gangster shit, like
Yeah,
they think that's cool and doing violence on camera seems cool
yeah,
now. Like that's the only way to do it. If it's not being filmed, why do it?
yeah. It's
It's
crazy.
just wild, man. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like we need Manny for some optimism here. Like
Yeah,
he's the
yeah.
optimist in our
I know, now that I'm
trio.
thoroughly depressed.
Like I don't know what to think, man. I'm telling you, I get my kids and I hold them. And I'm like, no, don't grow up.
Yeah, yeah, definitely gotta keep the unit tight as long as you can.
Yeah, man. Um, yeah.
All
So
right. I
that's
think
where
that's a
we've
good
been
way to end it. All right.
at. Hold them tight, ladies and
Yep.
gentlemen. Hold them tight.
There you go.
All right,
All right,
brother.
man. Don't forget to hit the stop button
Yeah,
on the record.
we'll bring Manny over for optimism next week.
All right. Good enough.
Peace.
Later.